In this video, I'm going to show you how you can deal with the rounded elements in your pictures. We've seen already that the polygon lasso tool is really great for making straight shapes, and I'll go over that right here. You might have noticed that I switched pictures, and that's because this one has many more rounded shapes to go through with you guys. The other one was lacking in rounded shapes. So then I'm going to deselect, right? And so this shape, this tool, the polygon lasso tool, which is very useful, it seems to be limited in its rounded shapes. And while Photoshop does have ways to select things that are round, like using the regular lasso tool, right? That just is a lot less neat than the polygon lasso tool, and it's not going to look so great. You could also hypothetically use the magnetic lasso tool, which detects shapes, but it also can get kind of messy. What I'm going to encourage you do is incorporate Illustrator into your pictures. And this is how we do it. First, we're going to select layer 1. That should be your picture layer. You're going to hit Command A. That will select the entire layer. Then you're going to hit or Control A if you're using a PC. Then you're going to hit Command or Control C to copy the layer. So we've just copied everything on layer 1. Now we're going to go to Illustrator. We're going to create new, and it's important that you make the Illustrator document that you're about to work on the same size as the Photoshop document that you've been working on. It's probably a good idea to save this, and right now I'm working in a landscape picture, so I'm making this landscape and I'm hitting create. Now I have this new document and I'm going to hit Command or Control V, and that should paste my picture on. Terrific. I'm on layer 1 and I'm going to lock it. And now I'm creating a new layer, layer 2, and on layer 2 I'm going to do my rounded shapes. And we're going to do rounded shapes the way that we would do, the way that we've become so accustomed to in Illustrator. So right now I just made a rectangle using the pen tool, and now this is a cheat, which you can try doing if it works for your shapes. I'm just going to use you know what, I actually think that looks pretty bad. So I'm going to do it the genuine way. I'm going to use the handles. Okay, now I'm going to drag. And now I'm going to drag. There we go, that's much better. See, it's usually better when you do things the right way. Okay, and now I'm going to use the direct selection tool to mess around with the handles. Okay. And I'm going to make this a color. It doesn't have to be one of the grays. And instead of doing this 3 times, I'm just going to duplicate this one twice. Except really what I'm going to do is first I want to get the dimension of this stuff, the inner part, and then once I have the dimensions, I'm going to duplicate all of it. So first let me duplicate this one, because this outside stuff really just seems to be the same shape just more than one time. I'm going to make it a different color. I'm going to hit Shift, so it will constrain the proportions, and I'm just going to make it bigger. I want the blue to be behind the red, so I just drag that layer beneath. And it seems like I'm going to make it bigger without constraining the proportions this time. Great. And I don't need to be so faithful to the actual photograph. What I see is that the actual photograph has 3 levels of depth, and that's what I want to achieve. I don't think it's not so important to me that it matches up exactly. What I want to achieve really is just to have a lot of depth. So now I'm going to change this color to something else. I'm going to drag this beneath. Now I'm going to put it back. And I'm going to drag this one out a little bit. And drag that one out. Okay. Now we have all three of these shapes. And now I'm going to select all three of them by dragging my mouse over them. And now I hit Option. And I hold down Option and I drag them out. And now I have three of them. Okay. Now what we want to do is copy each of these shapes into Photoshop by itself. Okay, so I'm not going to bring in this entire thing together. I'm going to bring in this orange one first because it's behind. So I think I actually just selected the blue one. So now I'm selecting the orange one, copy, go to Photoshop, and now I want to hit deselect. I actually don't need to make a new layer because when you paste something into Photoshop, it creates its own layer, and I'm going to put it in as pixels. And it should be the right size because we've been doing this at size. So we don't want to resize it. And instead, I do want to nudge it over. I want to be in the Move tool. You can get that by hitting the letter V. Okay. And I think that this one is probably going to be the darkest of the three. They're all pretty light. But let's make it this color. What color is this? We want it to be a little bit darker than that to show some depth. So now I'm going to hit the paint bucket tool and just color that. Now I'm going to go back to Illustrator. I'm going to select the blue one, copy, and then in Illustrator, paste by hitting Command or Control V, paste it in as pixels. We can hit the check mark, hit V to get the Move tool, and then we can move this right in. Let's make this a light color. Hitting G. I think that's 2. There we go. We want it to not blend in perfectly with this background shape or we won't see the depth. And now we want to hit the red one. Now we go back to Photoshop, paste it in a third time, hit the check mark, hit V to get the Move tool. There we go. And now I'm going to make this, let's see if we look at the picture, this is pretty dark. So let's make that a dark color. And now what I really want to do is make these two shapes behind it much lighter. Which is fine because we can change that. I'm going to hit Command and hit that thumbnail. I'm going to choose this gray. Actually, I think I'm actually going to use this one, this very light one. Hit Paint Bucket. Great. And now I'm going to turn this back on. And let's hit deselect and zoom out. I think that looks pretty good. Now what we can do is select all three of these layers, right? These 3 layers. And I'm going to duplicate all of them by dragging them over to the plus sign. So now we have a whole nother set, and I'm going to move it over. And this way we don't have to do it more than one time. I'm going to turn off layer 3 so I can see and make sure that I'm putting it in the right spot. I'm going to do that one more time. There we go. So that works for this shape, the duplicating and moving it right over because they're the same and it's on the same perspective. Over here on the side, you'd want to make each one of them new because they all change in their depth. But you would make all of those the same way that we've made this. We'd go to Illustrator, let's zoom out, and let's choose this one. You take the pen tool and you trace it just like we're used to doing already. Okay, and we drop that point. This isn't right, but it's okay because we can fix the point since we're in Illustrator. It's a lot easier to fix points in Illustrator than it is in Photoshop. Okay, so now we have this, and we also want to get this inside shape. So what I'm going to do is duplicate this. I'm going to change the color so we can see the difference. And I want to get a third one just in case. And I'm going to use the Pathfinder tool that we talked about towards the end of the project. And the Pathfinder tool will cut this shape out. We'll be left with this, hopefully we'll be left with this red over there. Great, so now this shape, oh, it looks like we could have gone a little deeper. I was too cautious. There we go. This shape is the shadow, and this shape is the window. I'm going to use a shortcut to drag this beneath. It's Command or Control, Shift, and then brackets. The left bracket pushes things behind, and the right bracket pushes things ahead. And now we see that this has depth. So first we're going to paste the blue shape into Photoshop as pixels. That goes over here. Going to hit the check mark. Okay, and we want this shape to be kind of gray. I just hit the paint bucket. Now back in Illustrator, we're going to copy this shape and let's paste it in as pixels. Change, and we'll move it, and then we'll change the color. I just hit V to get the move tool. Now I'm going to use black. There we go, and now we see that this window has some pretty nice depth to it. And that is how you would use Illustrator and Photoshop together to make your rounded shapes. If you have any questions, please let me know.